Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you, and today we're going to talk about, as I'm approaching the final stages this week of finishing up my data center, about, asking yourself a question saying, hey, I don't have anything today, I have some hardware, maybe I can make my own lab, my own IT server lab to do my job better or explore an area of services or something like that. What would it take? What's the mindset, and is the best way to approach the nature of having your own test lab, or your own server lab, or your own software lab, or your own application setup? Should it be in the house, or because I have some hardware, or can it be out in the world? Can it be a hybrid, and so on and so on? And the answer to that question is yes, 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 and yes. But if you have the opportunity, like many of us do, and you have a couple of computers laying around, let's say they're old basic Dell Optiplexes, right? Something like that. And or something, I don't know, you've got some Raspberry Pis and you're tinkering and you want to kind of build it into something. Um, that's usually how it starts. Very few people will go out and say, I'm going to go buy stuff and a rack and enclosure and HVAC, and I'm going to build my own data center, or I'm going to build my own lab, or I'm going to build my own infrastructure, or whatever the requirement. Usually, the time that people start doing this is because they have some stuff laying around. Great start. But recommend that two things are done. If you think it's time to make your own, in this lab, which you have, it's going to meet some type of task you want to do. It's recommended that you just take a minute, get a pencil and paper, or your computer system, or whatever, and kind of draft out what you want to do. Always, always, always start with the network, because many people will combine their house network traffic with their server traffic, and then they start to have problems because their inferior routers, i.e., the $50 routers, don't seem to handle the traffic very well. So take a minute. Design your network. Break your network apart. Let the house have 90% of the traffic, or 20 or 80% of the traffic, and give 20% dedicated to your lab. Why? Because two things. One, segmentation of your home network will allow you to get more realistic numbers off of your system environments. In other words, if you're going to test something like an application on a website, or you're going to play with DNS or something like that, you really want a one-to-one-to-one outbound connectivity. You don't want to go one into the pot of all the IP addresses and all the traffic going on, and then hop out to the second level of the switch and then out to the router. So take a little time and plan. It's worth it, because you don't spend more money than you need. That's the first thing. Secondly, you don't have that much money, right? Most of us don't. That's the reason why I do the videos that I do, is to help people without the cost of that side help, basically. So when you do this, you want to do you want to do three key details here. Like I said, take the time and plan out your network. Step one. Two, take time to plan out your PC hardware or your Pi. Over here, you could have a rack mount Raspberry Pi of a cluster of 4 units. Or take the time and take a measure of what your machines have inside them. With that, then the last thing is you take the time to design out your application level. By designing the nature of what you've got here, and that last stage, that step three, when you look at the hardware you've got, then you can say, okay, I want to play with Commit, or I want to play with um, DNS. I want to bring up my own open source DNS server, and I want to play with it. I want to learn how to use it. How does it function? And so on and so on. So you've got those 1, 2, 3, boom, applicational level support. That's how you can learn and how you can do things in a really great way. Now, if you're an advanced guy or gal, and you say, hey, I work in a data center, I get access to some blades, I get some access to this or access to that. It really doesn't matter what you got. But what it does matter is that You take that, you put it in your garage or wherever you've got it, and you take stock of it. Inventory the resources, processors, RAM, features, functions. Also take the time and look at the specs of the motherboards because it's important. PCIe Type 2 compliances would be great for mostly computational value like cloud work, or you want to do something like VMs and so on. PCIe 3 up is something of value for like storage arrays because you have a much more advanced busing for handling data. You can build yourself a NAS or a true NAS platform. Um, Look at your computational processors and say, hey, I've got X amount of cores, so I can do 12 virtual machines. That's 12 invisible servers or server like or workstations like that you can have inside your environment because you just took a little bit of time and you took measure of what you have. You have an understanding, you know the specs, and now you can actually go forward in that next set of steps of putting it into a place. I've seen everything out there when it comes to data centers, and there are two very important details that I recommend. And I'm going to have a video here very shortly talking about one of them. Number one, never use wood. Very important. It burns. Even if it's in the grounding section of your rack enclosure, or you're using it as part of a screw down for grounding strips or something like that, please don't use wood in housing your IT equipment. Wood contains heat. It pulls heat in. It's not going to get rid of it. It's flammable, and I have a couple examples of that in some of my old videos where I had used a couple of small wooden spacers with video cards, and they caught on fire because electronics do get hot, and metals and compounds and aluminum and gold and all of the things that are involved are at much higher temperatures and don't burn most of the time. Sometimes they also burn, but don't use wood in your design and implementation. Please don't. It's an insulator. You do need to ground whatever you do. If you have 3-prong outlets, great. You don't have to worry about grounding, but 99% of the time, you're going to have 2-prong power outputs, and there's no ground passing through to your devices. So you need to provide yourself a grounding solution. Statement number 2, power, 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 power. Very, very, very important. And I'm going to do a video on power shortly and explain how do you balance out that from the beginners to the advanced in regards to working your own test lab or your home IT server lab and so on and so on. But for now, this is all I'm going to talk to you in regards to this particular video. I hope you enjoy. It's really important to first say, hey, I'd like to do this. And 2, let's plan it. And 3, then build. Take that time and you'll end up saving time and money down the road. Take care and God bless.